Welcome to Inside the Mind, a podcast hosted by myself, Jennifer Forster, and my beautiful co-host, Allie Mae. We're excited to be here, diving into edgy, raw, and relatable conversations woven together with mind-blowing questions that will shake up your model of the world, expand your thinking, unravel your beliefs, tease apart your patterns, and walk you to the very edges of everything you've ever believed about yourself.
As NLP trainers, coaches, entrepreneurs, we will be traversing the topics of business, relationships, money, family, spirituality, leadership, and personal growth, all through the discerning lens of NLP, ancient teachings, and a healthy sprinkling of womanly wisdom. One thing we believe to be true is that if we want a different outcome, we must be willing to ask a different question. And the answers to those questions are always inside the mind. Hello, extraordinary souls, and welcome back to another episode of Inside the Mind. My name is Allie, and this is my beautiful, amazing podcast superstar friend Jen, 5-star, as we call her now, affectionately call her. Today, we are diving into forgiveness.
The topic of forgiveness. Where to begin? So, to me, this is a very new awareness for me. Forgiveness, the concept that I've always had in my life around forgiveness, to me, it's somewhat flawed. And it's flawed because up until this point in my life, forgiveness has been a two-person experience. So that's where I want to start.
Take it away. You've got the floor.
When we think about forgiveness, there's some well-known self-development concepts around forgiveness. One of those is not forgiving someone is, I'm paraphrasing here, however, not forgiving someone is like something about poison. You give them something about poison and it's like you swallowing the poison. I'm paraphrasing on that. Another one is forgive and forget. Can you think of another one?
There was a third one that we were talking about. Forgive and forget gets me. I'm not even sure how you can forget certain things, and we'll continue.
Yeah. And the third one is forgiveness is not for them, it's for you.
Oh.
So I've been playing with those because and I wasn't sure what it was for me that just didn't ring true with any of those prescriptions around forgiveness. And here's what I came up with. The issue for me with those models of forgiveness in our world is that they require something from the other person. It's a two-person experience. And what I've come to understand is if an outcome for you that you desire, so finding your own deep inner peace, when that comes from needing something from someone else, that's where the flawed experience can come in for me. So let's start with forgive and forget. So when we say, if you're going to forgive, you have to be willing to forget. Well, to me, that's like saying don't think of a purple elephant. When human beings have experiences, they're committed to the gestalt, right? They're committed to the timeline. They're committed to the memory. And so yes, we can unattach through timeline therapy. We can dissolve negative emotions from the memories, but there's no process that I understand up until this point that can have us actually dissolve a memory. So to say to someone to forgive and to forget, it's such a bloody oxymoron to me, because we're going to continue, at least this is my experience, things are going to happen that are going to remind you. A song will come on the radio and you're immediately transported and you go, oh, I remember that. And then that's right, I was supposed to have forgiven them about that. Okay, so it looks like I haven't actually forgiven them. My point here is it's not conclusive. It's a constant open loop about reminding yourself that you're supposed to have forgotten, right? Oh, I forgive them, so I must have forgotten I have to forget about it. I don't know, that doesn't feel good in my body. That just feels hard work. So that's the first piece. The second piece was the piece around forgiveness is not for them, it's for you.
Could we separate these and just dive in? I'd love to.
Yes. Go on the first one first.
I'd love to do that with the first one. So like a real life experience here around forgiveness and forgetting. That's never been something in my thought process around forgiving and forgetting. It's something that I've heard as well, not something that I've chosen to live by. So in real life experience for me, in one of my relationships, there was a few experiences that weren't the kind of experiences that I wanted to happen in my relationship from the other party. And for me, for the sake of this podcast, this conversation, I'm a very forgiving person. Very easily will I forgive somebody for something. And actually, I don't even know if it's forgiving someone. I think I have this natural part within me that doesn't have to forgive people. It's just, I understand that people make mistakes. So, and that people choose things and that the person is not their behavior. So now that's heavily ingrained in me through our studies of NLP, that the person is not their behavior. So I'm not actually looking to forgive somebody. Interesting. Processing this as I'm speaking. In the past, in this relationship, I did forgive the person. It was something that was in my vortex at the time around forgiveness. However, I never forgot. And at times through that, even though there was forgiveness, what happened on the other side of that was that I felt like I was wrong in feeling a way that I felt. I suppressed feelings. My body got sick because I wasn't speaking my truth. I didn't think I had a right to question anything. I did my best to push it aside. And what happened? Body got sick. I would get upset, cry, didn't know how to speak about what it was that was important to me. Things got messy. One thing that I've learned through that experience was that if I'm going to be in a relationship with somebody, I'm going to choose to be in the relationship with that person, not the behavior that's happened. Otherwise, in my experience and in my opinion, we're just going to be banging our head up against a wall if we're going to stay with somebody in a relationship, or we're going to keep a friendship, or whatever it is, whatever the relationship is. If we are condemning the person for their behavior. And even though we can say we forgive somebody, perhaps we don't, can we? Yes, we can. I know we can. And do we? Maybe not all the time. And sometimes I feel like people will use that as ammunition and throw it in people's head. Man, I'm going back on my timeline.
So good.
I'm going so far back now. It's like, I know when I was a teenager and in a relationship, I would throw that shit back in my boyfriend's face. Things that he'd done.
Ma'am.
Yeah, I would be like,
I've done that.
You did this. And then I would hold it and it was almost like a control thing. Oh my goodness.
I'm just going to keep that in my back pocket for later, just in case, not consciously, but unconsciously.
Yeah, just bring it out.
I knew this episode I was so excited to do this episode because it is so multi-layered. So that's that first forgive and forget piece. Are you complete on that? Because I'd love to move on to the next piece. Beautiful. Because I love where you've just started to take this, because it's exactly where I imagined that this episode would wind up. So good. I love it.
Jen chose this topic in case you can't tell.
I'm a little bit juiced up about this one. So the second piece is, the second one was, I've worked through these, so that's why it's difficult for me to pick these back up, because they're no longer beliefs that I carry around forgiveness. So I think we can agree that first one is somewhat flawed.
I definitely agree that it's somewhat flawed. Firstly, I would like to say it's not even about forgiveness. Secondly, how the fuck do we forget something when we're
human beings?
Exactly.
Right? Okay, so the second one was forgiveness is not for them, it's for you. Now, I like the idea of this one. I really do. And I can see, because I adopted this for quite some time. I'm like, yeah, forgiveness is for me. It's not for them, it's for me. But there's this sneaky thing inside of me, at least, sneaky little patterns, sneaky little identities, sneaky little woundings, that sometimes feels like when I do that, I'm letting them off the hook somehow. It's like they've gotten away with something, or, it's like they didn't have to do anything. I had to do all the work. So it brings up that for me. And whilst I've got the tools to work through that somewhat, it sits there as this, like splinter that is under the skin that you can't see it, you can't touch it, but man, every now and again you can feel it. So that's that particular one. Again, the problem with that as a concept of forgiveness, it requires something to happen outside of you in order for you to experience this. My daughter shared a book with me recently that was really challenging for me to take on. However, that's why I decided I was going to explore this book. And I ended up listening to the woman who wrote the book on a podcast. So the book is called, it's a book by a woman called Janet McCurdy and Jeanette McCurdy, or Jeanette McCurdy, I think it is. And the book is called I'm Glad My Mum Died, or something like that. But it's that in your face. And my daughter read the book. She raved about the book, and then she gave the book to me to read. She said, Mum, you'll love this. And my internal filters took that on as, does my daughter wish I was dead? What the hell? This is not so good. But I also knew that wasn't true. So I took on the book and started to look at my triggers around the title, around why would you say that? If you really had forgiven your mother, wouldn't you not say that anymore? And so it unraveled this whole topic of forgiveness for me again. The issue that this woman, and this woman, to give a little bit of context, this woman who wrote the book was a child actor. Her mother had encouraged dysfunctional eating, anything to keep her young, so she looked like a child. It was a very dysfunctional and toxic relationship. So that's just the nutshell version of that. However, the issue that this woman had was that the world kept telling her she was supposed to forgive her mother. And no matter what she did, she would continue to come back to a piece inside of her that wouldn't allow that forgiveness to happen, right? There was something outside of her that just wouldn't let that happen. And when her mum passed away, what it gave this woman was some kind of closure or some kind of completion, in that she then felt that she no longer had to go searching for this elusive forgiveness that was supposedly going to set her free from this relationship and the dysfunction that occurred in this relationship. And it was when I was listening to this podcast that it really opened up how flawed the concept of forgiveness inside of our world can be for many of us. Because when forgiveness requires something from the other person to occur, like they need to apologize, or they need to be different, or they need to make amends, then we can sometimes spend our life waiting for that to happen, and therefore the forgiveness piece never happens. So for me, that was another cog in my why forgiveness as a concept is flawed. Again, it requires something from someone else to happen. Allie, jump in on that.
Yeah. So for me, here's how I view this. I am you and you are me.
Yeah.
And if we're going to look at forgiveness, if I'm not forgiving you, I'm not forgiving myself. And I think we all play a role. There's reciprocity everywhere. And I feel like on this, if I'm judging you, then I may not want to forgive you. If I'm seeing you for the human that you are, knowing that you are me and I am you, then why would I even have the judgment in the first place that required the forgiveness? Oh yeah, cool, forgiveness. Why do we have to forgive someone? Why do we think we have to forgive someone? Because in our model of the world, they've done something wrong. Oh,
how good is this?
Yeah,
this is a juicy episode.
That is great. So technically, do we have to forgive anybody?
That's exactly where I'm going with this.
So good.
I love how we bounce off one another.
Me too.
I knew you'd vibe with this. So
I've got some more.
Yeah,
I have some more there.
Keep going.
There was something else in there around. Oh, so from an esoteric perspective, if we are holding on to not forgiving somebody, or I'm going to say judging, if we are judging somebody's behavior or something that we feel they have done to us, in inverted commas, no one can do anything to us. If we felt like that, then actually people can do things to us. I will say that. There are things in life where people do things to us physically. And I'm not saying that's right. And maybe there is some forgiveness that we feel is required there on horrific experiences. Also, it is our interpretation and it is our experience. And Yeah, that feels like a different, that feels, geez, there's so many parts, so many places we can go with this.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways we can go with this.
There's a lot. So what's coming through for me now, just to go back out to where I originally was on this, is when we look at this from an esoteric perspective, I believe that everything we think affects the planet, affects the people around us. It affects everything that's going on. And so if I have something in my mind and in my body that's reacting to another human being, then I'm putting that vibration out into the world. What vibration do I want to put out into the world? How do I want to contribute to the world? Because if I have stuff that's in my body and that's in my mind that's tainted or pissed off or non-forgiving or judgmental on somebody else, then that's what I'm putting out into the planet. How does the planet heal? How does the planet become a better planet? How do human beings come into a place of joy, happiness, contentment, love? By not judging in the first place. And so everything, in my opinion, that we think and feel and project is affecting the growth of our planet. And I know for me, I would like to be contributing in a way where the planet is getting healthier and more people are in a state of love than to project hatred out into the world, or to project fucked offness, or to project I can't forgive you for this, or whatever the case may be.
I love that. I really do. This is, yes, there's so many ways we can do this. So we just, this is a try it on.
And I
see how it feels.
Yeah, this is just not leaving me. I've got something here.
Go.
I just got to share. It's making me, I just feel a bit sick on this. I know that there are experiences that we have as human beings that are horrific.
100%.
And in that, I'm not saying that you have to forgive somebody. This is just I feel like there are things that happen to kids and things that happen to women and things that happen to men as well that we wouldn't wish on anybody. And from that place, if it feels best for you, if you're listening to this and you are somebody that has experienced something traumatic or horrific in your life, maybe for you, the forgiveness piece is a really big piece. And so all of this may be not valid, what we're sharing. And also, somebody that I know, this stuck with me. I use this in my trainings. I use this when I'm doing sales calls with people as well, to talk about the benefits of timeline therapy and how impactful timeline therapy is. So this woman that I know, she went out, she got drunk. I think she took drugs and she got raped. And
I think you shared this
I've shared this many times
on a previous episode as well.
I'll share it again. Shared it many times. And what I loved about her interpretation of that was that experience great? No, not at all. She never blamed the guy. This to me is the ultimate self-responsibility. She went out, she took drugs, she got drunk, she put herself in a situation with a man that had her life be endangered. How's that for full self-responsibility? Does it mean that what happened wasn't horrible? No, not at all. She just didn't spend her life blaming somebody else for the experience that had happened, inverted commas, to her. In that case, when I said before, things can happen to us. Yes, things can happen to us. And are we contributing to that, or are we not? Because sometimes we will be, and sometimes we might not be as well. So yeah, I just want to bring that in. For me, it feels a bit of a touchy subject now on this.
I think we're definitely getting into
some murky
water here. And so this conversation is not in any way looking to find fault or blame or what was right or what was wrong. None of the podcast episodes that we are putting out are for that purpose. The central theme in everything that we share on this podcast is to offer tools, insights, and perspectives that will allow you, the listener, to take back some of your own power, to take back your responsibility and your ability to create your own inner reconciliation that requires nothing outside of you to change or be different, and that it is the processes and tools and ideas to give you that opportunity to really tap into your own inner ability to create your own inner reconciliation, which, if we were to look to start to wrap this episode up, that was where I wanted to go with this. To start to consider the concept of forgiveness to not be, to be something that we can replace with a new way of going about it that looks more like an inner reconciliation process versus creating a forgiveness that needs to involve someone outside of us. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And the piece here for me is, why would we want inner reconciliation? Because that's our freedom.
Yeah.
And when we're stuck in blaming somebody else for something, when we're stuck in a space of not being able to forgive somebody, when we're stuck in that space, we are caged inside our minds and inside of our bodies. And to circle back around on the woman that I was talking about, she was timeline therapy trained as well, just like we are. And I believe what supported her to have that belief around, the fact that like she held herself responsibility there and wasn't blaming the person for their actions of what happened. She was in full ownership there of her part she played, just her part she played. And timeline therapy supported her with being able to come from that place as well. And that's something this is why I'm such an advocate for timeline therapy. NLP to me is extraordinary. It's a way of life. It's how Jen and it's how we do life. Timeline therapy for me is the bee's fucking knees. I've said this a gazillion times. I will continue to say it. It is our freedom piece. It is the piece that we can, like, through specific processes, a couple of processes, 2 processes, we can create true inner freedom. 2 of my favoriteest things, inner freedom and wealth freedom. And when we're living caged inside of ourselves and we're not able to forgive somebody for something, and we're stuck in those spaces of hatred on other people or projecting our shit onto other people, we are not truly free. And we are such advocates for fucking inner freedom. Everybody deserves to feel inner freedom. Man, you feel me get passionate on this. It just is not good enough for me that so many people are trapped inside their beings and inside their minds. Whoa.
We do have an episode coming up on inner freedom as well. And so stay tuned for that one.
Yeah. And just a little bit of behind the scenes stuff here. Jen and I don't plan these out other than, so Jen said to me, Allie, I've got 4 topics that I want to cover off this time. Sometimes it'll be me that has the topics, or we'll work the topics together. And so Jen said to me this morning, so what are we going to talk on with these? I'm like, let's just roll. So we don't plan this. We don't know where it's going to go. We trust that what's going to come through the basic topics is what's going to be of the greatest service to humanity. And this topic was very
it was really a big one for me because because I'm interested. I'm interested always as to how I can experience a deeper level of inner freedom, because exactly what Allie just said, if when I'm not free, then esoterically speaking, the world is not free either. So the more I can free myself, the more spaciousness and expansiveness and inner reconciliation I can do inside of my body, my heart, my soul, my mind, the more I can focus on that as an individual, the more collective freedom the world will experience.
Because when one person's free on the inside, and then that ripples out, and then that ripples out, and then that ripples out, what kind of world do we have then?
Yeah. Beautiful.
So if you are joining us for the first time, or it's just a couple of episodes that you've listened to, you can find us in our Facebook group, Inside the Mind. Just type in Inside the Mind, or actually there's some links below here where you're listening, and you'll be able to find that Facebook group. We're also on YouTube. We have our own individual pages, and
we have a 2-day event coming up.
We do have a 2-day, actually. Yes. I'm thinking we're recording in advance here, Jen.
We are recording in advance.
Well, it will be on, yes.
It will be on. So it's in June. So you probably will be listening to this episode, getting close to that. However, if you are listening to this episode and it's prior to the 7th, 8th, 17th and 18th, the 7th and the 8th is the online, the 17th and 18th is the in-person. If you're listening before those dates, come and be with us live in the room, and let's delve deeper into this for you, and let's help us support you to find your own inner freedom.
Yeah. On that note, we'll catch you next time.
See you soon.